What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Kevin with Optimize Essentials, and I am back with part 2 of the Lean series, and I'm going to share with you all of the reasons why you can't change or lose the weight. Now, I'm making this video because I understand how it feels to want to change and not be able to change. How to want to change your lifestyle, but for some reason just keep repeating the same habits over and over again. If you can relate to this, or if this sounds like you, make sure you watch all the way to the end because you want to stay for the secrets, all right? For the little goody goodies. But also to preface that this video could be a little bit lengthy because I personally have a lot to say and there's a lot to be said on this topic, because wanting to change and not being able to change is something that's very, very frustrating, hard to deal with. It could be stressful, it could be depressing, it could be frustrating. Whatever you're trying to change, and depending on how long you've been trying to do it for, the more of these emotions you'll be able to experience. And today's video is gonna help you bring awareness, to bring light on all of the factors, all of the contributing factors to your inability to change. It's not to say that these are the complete cure-alls, because I've selected 4 or 5 of the what I consider principle-based ideas, topics that are inhibiting you, that are causing you to not be able to do what you want to do despite wanting to on a deeper level, right? Now, quick thing, I'm also writing a book on this, or I've been for the past few years. I haven't touched my book for a while, or it's about 70% done. I haven't touched that in a while, I haven't made videos in a while, but that's why I committed to you guys and committed to myself that I'm gonna be back, that I'm gonna fix my priorities and deliver to you some solid content. And this commitment to myself and to you guys is one of my burning desires, one of my reasons why I'm here. And if you haven't watched the first video, the first part, you wanna make sure you watch that. How to get in shape and stay there. There's some fundamental things you need to do before you can even make that change. But when you have decided what your burning desire is, what your commitment is, what your vision is, only then can you make that identity change, right? That desire, that person you want to become. Only then can you really spurt yourself in that direction. But now that you've made that effort, you've found that desire, you need to identify what are the obstacles, what are the things that are stopping me from making this change. And the more aware you become of it, the easier you can make this change. In the book, I talk about the first step, right? The first step in change is awareness, is to develop awareness. I just had my breakfast. Just to develop awareness behind all of the behaviors that you're trying to change, all the reasons that are triggering your behaviors, right? When you identify what's on the deepest, darkest level that's causing all of these factors, once you've shined light on them, that is when you can make that change, right? That's the first step. So let's get right into it, guys. I didn't exactly share with you all of the reasons yet, but let me break it down real quick, all right? There's 4 things that I want to talk about today. The first one is the things that you lack, right? There are certain things that you lack that you need to start to develop and start to work on, right? The more of these you can develop, the more of these you can work on, through having awareness of them, the greater the second steps are going to be able to be for you. First step is have awareness, right? And then the second steps are all the things you need to do to make this change happen, but also to be aware of all the factors that are preventing you from doing these steps. It's like a cyclic thing that's very hard to break free from and get. I understand, which is why I'm making this video. I got you guys. Make sure you watch it all and really pay attention. Watch it all and repeat it again if you need to. And if it's too long for you, put on some headphones and watch or listen to it while you're driving, because guys, this is something that's worked for me, and it's something that I'm using currently to help me with other areas of my life, because no, I'm not perfect. Just like you, I have issues too. I no longer have the issues that I have, but now it's like I work with a different set of issues. Okay. I'll just explain to you what these issues are, right? I used to be a heavy pot smoker, right? I used to be a video gamer, a pot addict, and for the longest time, all I would do is play video games and smoke pot, right? And because of that, I felt very stressed, very frustrated, very depressed, isolated, alone. because I didn't have anyone to hang out with. All I did was play video games. And also, all this stress in my body was causing me to just feel like I was worn out. Just like, what am I doing the same things over and over again? And then that's when I decided, I can't do this anymore. I need to find something else to do in my life. That's when I wanted to make that change, that desire to not feel the same way anymore, right? Once I decided to make that change, guess what happens? All the things that I'm going to share with you today smacked me in the face and was like, nope, you want to change? Well, guess what? Not that easy, because we've been doing this for so long that it's not easy to change, right? So here we go. What is the first thing you lack? The first thing that you lack when it comes down to change is the reasons to change, right? For 6 months that if you haven't watched my other video, I talked about I wasn't able to make my videos. I wasn't able to write on my book too much because I had other priorities that I needed to take care of. I needed to focus on my own financial situation, my living situation, my career, my schooling, because I decided to enroll into massage therapy. I work as a personal trainer, so going to school, working out, coming back from work. So going to school, working out, and work, which was like my habitual cycle, I didn't have any energy to come back and want to make videos. I didn't want to write on my book because I just wasn't always feeling inspired. And when I was feeling inspired, I didn't have enough time to do it. So I was, you know what, forget this. I'm going to focus on myself for a little bit, for a little while. But because of that, that took me some time to be like, wow, I don't feel fulfilled because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And same for you. Because you're not feeling healthy, if you're not feeling you're eating junk all the time and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're gonna feel this nagging sensation in your body that's like, hey, whatever your name is, there's something in the background that you're supposed to be doing, but you're not doing it. Why are you watching TV? Why are you eating this potato chip, this French fry? You're probably eating right now while you're watching this. Who knows? Or you're drinking something, right? Why are you doing that? You shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing something else. That voice, right, will continue to nag you until one day they call it the universe will chuck a brick at you, right? So for me, for you, this voice, you can use this as a reason to finally make that change. When you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll do something about it, right? Look, let me give you another quote. Change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than pain of changing. I started to make these videos because of two things. The first one was I've been getting these desires, right? That nagging voice, and it's been getting louder and louder and louder until one day, I checked my horoscope and it popped up and it says, I've been avoiding this mission for a while and I need to, it's been in my thoughts for a while and that it's about time to bring it back. So that's when I was like, wow, this message is for me. I need to do something about it. For you, it could be maybe something shows up in the magazine, shows that, increased risk of death or diabetes or X and Y, or you get a telephone from a friend or family who's recently died of a disease, or you see this video and it's like, it popped up in my inbox somehow and there's something's happening for a reason. It's telling me I need to work on my health. Whatever that reason is, whatever that burning desire is, whatever you're uncomfortable with, whatever that reason is, allow it to grow, allow it to fester, allow it to fuel your flames or fan your flames. You need something to spark your flames first, something to fan it to keep it going, and something to keep giving it fuel, right? These three reasons, these three things allow you to have that drive, have that motivation, which is the second point I want to talk about. When you lack the drive and the motivation, it's because you don't have the reasons. You don't have the strong enough reasons to make this change. Let me give you another quote. When your reasons aren't strong enough, your excuses will be. When I heard that, I was like, oh, that was good. Let me get you it again, right? When your reasons aren't strong enough, your excuses will be. I'm going to talk about myself again and use myself as an example so you can have a better understanding. When I didn't have the drive and the motivation to make these videos, I didn't have the reasons to. My excuses were stronger. Why? I was tired. I woke up just not feeling like it. When you don't want to go to the gym, I get it. You don't feel like it, right? You just don't feel like it. Or you'd rather be doing something else because you're lazy and you're unmotivated. You'd rather be sitting on the couch, eating potatoes. oh man, I feel so guilty because I did that. You'd rather be doing that, right? I get it. It's hard because of other things I'll be sharing with you. But the very first thing that you have to understand is you lack the reasons. It's not easy to find reasons, but once you find them, it's simply of just turning on the trigger, turning on like the switch. Find reasons. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Are you sick and tired of being fat? Are you sick and tired of being lazy? Are you sick and tired of living the same goddamn life, right? Excuse my language, and no, not to use God's name in vain, but sometimes that's just what happens, right? We're stuck in this freaking loop, and it's like, what are we gonna do? Like, how do you get out of it when you're sick and tired of doing that? That could be your reason. That could be your strong enough reason to make that change. Now, once you've identified the reasons by journaling or writing down your ideas and really thinking about it, really seeing it on paper, maybe it's for your family, your loved ones, your kid, your baby, right? Or your mom, your dad, or your distant cousins and family, whatever it is, whatever you're doing it for, identify them and focus on them and feel them. And it might not come easily. It might not come today. It might not come tomorrow, but it will take time. It will take time in order for you to make those changes. Does it make sense? Or to get those reasons to spurt you in that direction. The more of them you can find, the more reasons you can find to be uncomfortable with, the more desires you can find to pull you in that direction, the easier it is for you to make that change. And then the third thing that you're lacking is awareness. Awareness, right? I talked about this earlier in my book, right? The four steps, the first one is awareness. When you don't have the awareness of all of the things that are inhibiting you, when you don't have the awareness of all of things that are contributing to your inability to change, your habits, right? Or your unconscious behaviors, when you don't identify that, that is when you are constantly stuck in, right? Look, Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, you're gonna live the rest of your life thinking it's fate. That's powerful. When you keep doing the same things for so long, you become unconscious. The behavior becomes unconscious, and then you live a certain way, or you become average, or you might be homeless, but then you might believe maybe it was just fate, but you didn't realize that it was because of all the things that you were not doing or doing unconsciously. Unconscious behaviors. You need to have awareness over what is causing the deepest triggers. Maybe it was your parents. Maybe it was your friends, your family members. Things that they said that has caused you to believe that you're a certain way. Maybe you're like, I'm not good enough, or that I just don't have the willpower. I just don't have the self-control. Because of that, this unconscious behavior of playing out that pattern is something that becomes an inhibiting force in your life. It inhibits you to make that change because it hasn't been taken out yet, right? Then the second thing is not being educated on this topic, right? Not knowing why you can't change, not knowing all the factors behind why you can't change. Emotionally, mentally, there are certain factors that are preventing us to do certain activities or make change successful because it's complex of habits, conditioning, right? Which we'll talk about soon. When you don't have the knowledge, when you aren't educated in this topic, making change is going to be that much harder. When you haven't been educated in school about the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, the habits, the behaviors, the psychology, the addictive behaviors, the social behaviors, the lack of certain topics, education, that's going to prevent you from making the change that you didn't make. And until you learn what you need to learn, it's going to be that much harder. Number 2 that I want to talk about is emotional baggage, right? If you carry emotional baggage behind eating. Now, let's say eating for you was a stress response. Eating for you is a way to cover up how you're feeling, or is for you to escape, or maybe your parents broke up one day, or maybe you broke up one day and you decided to armor yourself and get fat, or you're using it as a coping mechanism, that becomes baggage. When I see someone who is overweight, obese, I instantly think they're stressed or they're depressed or something's going on that's causing them to use food as a coping mechanism. Now, it's not to say, not to shame them, because we all have our coping mechanisms. It could be shopaholics, right? People who use shopping, people who use gambling, people who use alcohol, people who use pot, me, right? People who use video games, people who use pornography, certain things that cause you to cope. That becomes your coping mechanism, becomes your way of a source of pleasure. So when you're overweight, eating has become your coping mechanism. You need to identify the emotional baggage that you're carrying. You need to have the awareness of what caused that baggage, and you need to come to terms with it. You need to come to peace with it. You need to express empathy, compassion for yourself, and to understand that, things happen in life and it gets hard, and that you needed to cope with it. But now you understand that's no longer serving you. In fact, it's being a detriment of your inability to change. It's being a detriment of the goals that you want. It's blocking you. So you need to remove the roadblocks by educating yourself, by watching these videos on what you can do to let go of that emotional baggage, right? Sometimes we might need someone to cry on, right? We need to just cry and express all the emotions and just scream, right? Primal screaming therapy. If you haven't watched some of Elliot Hulse's videos where he goes in like batshit crazy mode, right? Catharsis, where you just express yourself and just go crazy and let out all the emotions, right? Unrelentless, or you don't hold back and you just go, right? When you just let all these emotions that you've been armoring with and carrying yourself with, that is when you can finally let go of that baggage. And sometimes we need help doing that. Maybe we can't do that in our environment. We need to find someone, a therapist, someone who can facilitate our healing or bring us through that process of identifying all the things in the past that have caused us to create this pattern, right? That is how you do it. And through educating, look, not to be straight honest with you, right? Video games and pot smoking, right? That's something that has been lingering for a while. I don't smoke pot at the rate I used to do, anyway, maybe once or twice, 3 times a year at most, because I decided for myself that it was just too painful. I didn't like the way it felt in my lungs. How did I go from that person to being someone who just didn't really smoke pot anymore, or just did it very rarely on recreational basis? Well, it came down to, shifting my identity, having that desire, not wanting that pain of staying the same and not being able to change, right? That was too strong. I just didn't want to experience that anymore, right? Maybe you haven't hit your pain threshold yet. But at the same time, every now and then I still do edibles, right? And every now and then I play maybe once or twice on the computer and play some video games. I haven't completely cut these habits out, but what I'm trying to share with you today is you want to be able to figure out how to get it under control. You don't want it to control you. That's when it becomes an issue. It's fine to have junk food every now and then, but what is the ratio you're doing it at? I eat maybe a bag of potato chips every 2 weeks or so, right? Once or twice a week. And then I feel sort of a little shame, a little regret, but it's because I don't eat anything else that occasionally. It's not what you do once at a time, it's what you do most of the time, right? What you're doing once in a while, that's gonna be okay. Look, if you're drinking, a shot of glass or some alcohol every now and then when you're going out to party, when you're just trying to relax, that's fine. It's only when you consistently use it as your crutch, that's when it becomes problematic. That's when it becomes something that hinders you. But again, understand, once you become an addict and once you become someone who's been in that life, coming out of it is going to be the hard part. And all these factors I'm sharing with you are going to be those hard parts. And let me get to the third reasons, right? So far we talked about the things you lack. The second thing is the emotional baggage that we hold on to and haven't let go of. And then the third thing is the conditioning, right? This is where I think most people get stuck. This is where most of us are unable to change because the conditioning is just so strong. It's just too deep, right? What do I mean by conditioning? Conditioning happens on multiple levels. It happens in multiple areas of our life. What does it mean to condition something? It's to condition, to repeat, or to do, or so build into our nervous system, to our subconscious mind. So similar to the emotional baggage, if you've conditioned the response of I'm sad, or I'm unhappy, I'm lonely, I'm depressed, so therefore I'm going to use certain means to relieve that. Eating, you condition yourself to eating junk to feel better, or you condition yourself to use drugs to feel better. You condition yourself to play video games, watch TV, watch pornography, or go out and shop, or go out and do things to comfort yourself. That conditioning over and over again becomes your source, your solution to your problem. And even when you don't exactly have that problem anymore, or you've identified it, each time you feel a certain way, or each time you feel an undesired way, you think about the solutions that you've used as a way to potentially fix that problem too. And because of that, each time you think about it, you conjure up with the ideas, the sensations, the pleasurable sensations that remind you of how good it felt to be eating that food, to play that game, to playing that game, to be drinking that coffee, be doing whatever it was, and then you repeat the behavior. But because you've repeated the behavior for so long, with the law of diminishing returns, you don't feel that same effect. And when you don't feel that same effect, suddenly your pleasure and your desired response is incongruent, and you feel that pain, right? That is why we, despite wanting to change, we still repeat the same behavior, because we think it will give us that same reward. Even when it doesn't, we fall into that behavior because it's now become a habit, right? Look, I'm gonna give you something that I thought about and heard others talk about as well. When you do something for short-term pleasure, short-term gain, you're gonna get long-term pain, right? When you do something in the short term that gives you pleasure, that gives you satisfaction, it's gonna give you pain in the long run. Whether it be in the form of depression, in the form of stress, in the form of lack of motivation, lethargy, brain fog, when you eat certain foods, something that feels good during is going to bring you pain in the long run. And vice versa, something that brings you short-term pain will turn into pleasure in the long run, i.e. working out, eating healthy food. But eating healthy food is pleasurable, right? I enjoy it. Unless you're eating like dry, like unseasoned broccoli and chicken breast every day, and you're just like, man, this is so dry. Then it's going to be unenjoyable, but you can turn it to something enjoyable. But something that doesn't feel so good in the present moment actually becomes something that serves us, becomes pleasurable in the future. But let me go back to conditioning, right? Look, it's so easy to be conditioned. We just walk outside, we see posters everywhere. In today's society, the one thing that conditions us the most is convenience. The TV is here. The computer is here. The iPhone, right? Look around, every corner is a fast food restaurant. Everything is easy. Everything is convenient. You don't have to work for anything. We're constantly stimulated. We're constantly blasted with options. We're constantly blasted with things that make it easy for us to not say no. And because of that, we've been conditioned to make the easy choice. When you've been conditioned to make the easy choice, is it going to be easier for you to do something painful in the short term? Or is it going to be easier for you to do something pleasurable in the short term? Of course, it's going to be easier to do something pleasurable right now in the short term, because we've been conditioned to, right? You don't want to cook food because it's too painful, or it's too much time to cook food. Well, guess what? Go down the street and buy yourself some food. Bam! You do that once, you do that twice, you do that for 3 years, you've been conditioned to eat fast food. In return, when you take the long route and you're like, even though I don't have too much time, even though I don't want to make food, I'm going to meal prep, or I'm going to make some food in advance, and I'm going to do it because I want to feel good. And then you spend 30 extra minutes that day making the food, and because of that, you feel good. And then you experience short-term pain, but long-term pleasure. And you do that enough time, you become someone who's healthy. You become someone who can see their abs, right? Who has muscles, because you've put in the work. That is how we've been conditioned, and that is how you uncondition yourself. You have to progressively swap the two. Short-term pain with long-term pleasure, right? That's how you want to do it. And then the next thing, right? Technology. We see so many things. Many people want to capture our attention. Many people want to take our money. Take our money, right? Most people want our money because they find it easy to capture your attention and draw you into buying something and to do it over and over and over again. With technology, if you're bored, watch cat videos. If you're bored, watch some mindless things on the internet. Consume some mindless content because it's easy. And until you learn how to say no to instant gratification, until you know how to delay your gratification, until you can learn how. I suffer with this, guys. Look, I am not like someone who is free from this, all right? I work on this myself every day. I fight with this myself every day because temptation is all around us, right? It's easy to give into instant gratification. But again, just like eating right, it's not what you do once in a while, it's what you do most of the time. And the better you want to get in life, the more you have to do it most of the time. Look, I talked about elite athletes, elite players in the past. Same damn thing, right? They're just better at disciplining themselves at a higher and higher degree level. That's the difference between each and every one of us. I'm not exactly in a better position. I've just done this at a slightly better level. Because of that, I'm not as affected as someone who's completely overweight and obese, right? It's because there's certain different things that we're doing and not doing. And through bringing your awareness of it, you can have that space to make that change. Now, let me share with you for the fourth thing, which is also very important. The environment, right? If you haven't heard of epigenetics before, it talks about above, right? We're being influenced. The environment can program, can trigger our genes to produce certain diseases, illnesses, right? Because it's not set in stone, right? The environment can program us. The environment can cause us to do certain things, can trigger us, can trigger behaviors, trigger patterns, trigger things. That's why when someone smells an aroma, when someone hears a noise, when someone hears music or a sound, they get triggered. When you go inside of a house and it's messy and it's filled with junk food and there's a ton of alcohol everywhere, there's a ton of soda, guess what? You're going to be triggered to doing that. So when you're living in an environment where your friends, your family, or your roommates are living a certain way or are producing a certain result that you don't want, you need to find a way to get yourself away from it. Because if you keep exposing yourself through just the principle of availability, just because it's there, available, your desire, your tendency to want to do it is going to be heightened, is going to be increased. And that is how your environment gets you. Look, coffee is another thing I drink often, but it's come to a point where coffee doesn't give me that rush because I've been doing it for so long, right? And if you drink too much coffee, you'll suffer from adrenal fatigue because it produces cortisol, right? It triggers your adrenal glands to produce cortisol. That's why when people drink too much caffeine, they get burnout because adrenal fatigue is very real, right? When you're stressed, you're producing cortisol. When you're drinking caffeine, thinking negative thoughts, too much stimulates, that is stress. It amps up your system for a little bit and then it produces cortisol. So for me, coffee is something I'm trying to not drink so much of or kind of stop depending on because that's just something I know now it's not serving me to my highest potential. So I have to look at it carefully and figure out, okay, what are my reasons? What is my drive, my motivation for not wanting to drink coffee? And then what can I become aware about? What that's causing me to drink coffee, right? These are all the things that I need to pay attention to. What is the thing that's surrounding me in terms of emotional needs? Maybe it's wanting to be stimulated. Maybe it's wanting to feel good. Maybe it's wanting to feel productive. These are the things I need to be aware of to identify that I'm using it as. And then finally, I have to realize, what am I constantly conditioning myself with? Is it always in the environment? It is always in the environment. In fact, if you take a quick look, right there is my coffee maker, right? Just because it's available, the tendency for me to want to use it is that much greater. And because I want to stop, but my brother is like, I want to drink my coffee before I work out. It's there. So it's like, I could easily blame my brother, or I could figure out how to not drink it anymore, right? But it's not easy when it's in your environment and someone is doing it, or it's in your environment and it's just there. It's going to be hard to change. So one, you need to make sure that whatever you're trying to change is not in your vicinity. And if that means moving out, or finding a new place, or letting your friends and family and roommates know that's what you want to change, and that let's work together, work out something where it's like, I don't have to see your coffee every day, or see your soda, or your junk food, or your bad habits, because I want to stop doing that. Until you can have that conversation with yourself and them, that is when you can make those changes to finally changing your life, right? Look, guys, once again, it's not easy. I understand. On the deepest level, it is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? Changing your behaviors, changing your patterns, that's going to be something that's hard. That's why I'm learning NLP, or I'm looking into self-hypnosis, or I'm constantly trying to use something to program my mind so that I can be more in control of my temptations, more in control of my desires. Because if you let your desires, your temptations control you, you're going to be living the stressed, depressed, unfulfilled life. And that is the life I do not want to live. And that is one of my reasons. So that's all for today. Let's do a quick recap on why you can't lose the weight or change. Number one, 3 things that you lack. Reasons, drive and motivation, and awareness. When you don't have the reasons strong enough to, your excuses will be. So identify as many reasons that support you or go against the lifestyle that you don't want to live. The more of those you can find, the less your excuses will be. And then you'll suddenly find that your drive and motivation goes up because you have more burning desires. You have more reasons to do what you need to do. And then finally, once you have those, start to identify, develop your awareness when it comes down to trying to figure out what are the behaviors that are triggering it. Develop it through self-reflection, through journaling, through meditating, and then identify the emotional baggage that you have that stops you from doing it because it's something that's weighing you down and that you need to let go of through expressing it, through Osho's dynamic meditation, through going catharsis, go screaming in your room, in your pillow, crying and beating everything that's not a human up, right? Or living thing. And then identify what have been conditioned. What are you conditioning yourself with? What are you spending your time on? Are you always watching cat videos online and watching pornography or watching things that is giving you short-term pleasure and giving you long-term pain? What is it that you're constantly conditioning yourself with that you need to stop, or at least find something else to condition yourself with, such as watching this video on how to change, watching videos on what to do to change your habits, how to program your mind, and then how can you reflect upon your environment and identify what it is that is causing these patterns to play. What can you do to get out of your environment? Some people who move, some people who go to a different country, a different state, that's when they can finally change because they're in a completely different place. Their physiology and biology is reset and nothing triggers them anymore. At least it doesn't. And not to the same extent, because of that, they're finally able to say, no, I'm going to make a new identity and become who I was meant to become. All right, guys. That is all the reasons why you can't change or lose weight. I hope you enjoyed it. Next part is going to be the final episode, probably one more bonus series, but the third one, I'm going to talk about the mechanics, the secrets of how you can stay lean, how you can finally see these abs and stay there, right? What are the mechanics? What can you do? What is the practical application? Because part 1, part 2 are the theoretical application, is the mental framework. Until you can get that right, you'll struggle with this for the rest of your life, right? The strategies are out there, but not how to program your mind, how to have that mindset so that you can make these changes, that you can implement the strategy. Because a lot of people ask me for the strategy, but until you can get the mindset right, you can't implement those strategies. So guys, it's Kevin. Make sure you stay tuned for more. Have a wonderful day. Peace.